Hey guys, how's it going? Just wanted to make a quick video today to sort of give you a bit of a breakdown on how I go about trading with the depth of market. I've had quite a few questions in the thread and some private messages all about how I trade the DOM and sort of what are the things that I look for when I'm talking about seeing these big buyers and big sellers. So I did a bit of a screen recording the other day. I just left it running. I wasn't trading at the time and sort of came back and just had a look to see if there was anything interesting that I could point out. And sure enough, there was some pretty good action. And this sort of buying and selling action where you see these big buyers and big sellers does happen from time to time towards the end of the trading day. And I guess that's because there's big guys who have got positions on and they need to get out and get out pretty quickly. So they obviously have to execute their orders, and you see it a bit towards the end of the week or the end of the month or the end of the quarter, those types of things. So it can be a pretty good opportunity if you've got if you know what you're looking for. So I'll give you a bit of a breakdown of how I go about doing that. And the first thing you sort of need is you need your depth of market up. And if you haven't really traded with the depth of market before, it can be really, really hard to sort of understand what's going on. I know the first time I saw this in action, I was completely lost. So for the guys who haven't really traded with it too much, basically what you're looking at is, this is Xtrader. This is probably one of the main platforms the professionals use. On the left, we're seeing all the bids. These are all the buyers and their limit orders. And on the right, we have all the offers. These are the guys waiting to sell. And over here, we can see this is where actually a contract being executed. So one contract is traded here at this price, 54.38. All the way along the right, we have the market profile, or you might also know it as the volume profile. But basically, it is the accumulation of all the contracts that have traded at that particular price over the course of the trading day. So we have at 54.32. 593 contracts have traded at that price. So we can use this market profile and this sort of accumulation on the right here to sort of see how many contracts are trading at particular prices. And our job is to go out and spot where the big buyers and the big sellers are. And that way, if we see a lot of contracts trading at a particular price but it not really going anywhere, we know that there's a big buyer, say, sitting there scooping up those orders, and that's going to in the end push the price higher. So hopefully that made some sense. Maybe when I play it it'll be a bit clearer, but what I want you to do today is watch this price at 54.37. We know that there's 364 contracts, so we'll try and remember that number. We've got 364 contracts that have traded at 54.37. And we're looking for a buyer sort of sitting here scooping up all these orders. At the moment, there's only 12 contracts sitting on the offer. So let's just sort of play this and see what happens. Okay, so we're getting some sort of weird action here. This looks like it's just sort of an algorithm or who knows what this is. But remember, we're just keeping an eye on how many contracts are trading at this price and what's really happening, which is stronger, the bid or the offer. As we can see, all these contracts are trading here, but it sort of keeps on staying bid. So obviously someone's selling into this bid, but there's a buyer here who's sort of scooping them up. Now remember, we only had 360 odd contracts on the market profile to begin with. So when we get a chance, it'll be interesting to see how many contracts are sort of traded at this price. So you can see that it keeps on, there's more and more selling all the time, but as soon as they're selling, it always pops back up. And the offer really can never take hold. They always try and sell, but sure enough, the bid always pops back up. And a lot of contracts are getting executed at this price, but the bid really isn't going anywhere. It's sort of staying there. It's always around this 20-30 mark, and it can't really get moved any lower at the moment. Here we go. It pops down. So we've seen a fair few contracts traded there. That was 360 to begin with, and now it's up to 460. So a ton of contracts traded there, and yet it can't sort of go against it. It can't go down. The bid sort of stays there the entire time. Someone's sitting there scooping up, buying at 37. It tries to go offer. You see like the offer comes here, and it sits here for a minute. So there's obviously a bit of a push and pull going on. We're up to 500 contracts have now traded at this level. That's 140 contracts have gone through there. And sure enough, the bid keeps on reappearing. So there's obviously someone sitting there just buying, scooping up heaps and heaps of buying going on. Look, up to 538 contracts have now traded at this price at 37. So it's definitely a bit of a battle going on between the buyers and the sellers, but to me it just looks like the buyers just keep on winning out. We're up to 579 contracts have now traded here, and it stays bid. It's looking quite strong. So to me this looks like a pretty good place to start about thinking getting long here. Up to 600 contracts. A lot's traded through this price, so I'd certainly be thinking about getting long. Like, we've ducked down a couple here. We've seen it sell off, and now it's kind of just popped back up, and popped back up quite strongly. Yeah, and then it's back to 37, and that's a pretty good sign that there's some real strength there on the bid. So if it was me, I'd be ducking in to get long right about now, and just sort of seeing what happens. And yeah, there we go, more of a battle sort of going on. And sure enough, that buyer has run the price right up from 37, which we had plenty of time to get in, and it's run it right up to 42, and it looks like there might be a bit more buying to go. So if you remember, we had about 360, I think I said, when we started. There's a heap that is traded here at 37, and the price really couldn't go against it. So there was so much selling going into this bid at 37, but it continually stayed bid and absorbed all that action. So that's a sign that there's a really big buyer there. So you can use that to jump in and make a quick couple of ticks. And at the end of the day, this is the kind of thing you're looking for, regardless of the time of day or the type of setup. You could use this same kind of logic to try and find, imagine this was a big support level and you saw that kind of buying going on. You'd know that that's a pretty good place to get long. So at the end of the day, this is basically how you need to go about looking at the depth of market to try and spot the big buyers and the big sellers. You really need to sort of use this depth of market to almost take a look beneath the market and to sort of see what's going on. A lot of people like to use charts all the time, but the reality is that charts are only really showing you what's happened in the past, whereas if you use the depth of market in this kind of way, you're seeing what a potential buyer or a potential seller is really trying to do. Like, they're trying to execute their orders, and these big guys are the ones who are really going to push the market around. So if you can sit there and buy 300, 400 contracts in a market of this sort of liquidity, you're really going to move the market. So I hope this has made sort of some sense to you guys. If it hasn't, please go back and watch this a few times. I know it took me a good few weeks to work out what was going on the first time I saw the depth of market. So go out and watch this a couple of times, bring up your own DOMs, and really get stuck into trying to learn the depth of market, because it can really help improve your trading. Feel free to leave me a comment or post in my thread, and I hope you've got something out of this. Good luck, guys.